Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cubal studios. Happy to be here with you. 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse, as well as Cafe Cubal out on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners, celebrating their one-year anniversary at the drive-through location. We are inside of those studios, and we're happy to be here with you, picture in picture with Mr. Jason Poles here with us. And Jason, the Director of Advancement Southwest for Syracuse University, heading out to the West Coast in 2019, right before the pandemic here, and obviously a graduate of Syracuse University as well, and played on the Orange football team. So with that being said, we're happy that we finally have Mr. Poles here. Jason, how are we doing today?
I'm doing well. Will not complain. Thanks for the kind introduction.
Absolutely. So Jason, I want to go back to your time and your history and where it all began for you. Why Syracuse? When you look back, hindsight 2020, why did you choose Syracuse on and off the field?
My story is a little different. When I tell people, I got my first letter from any college when I was in 8th grade, and that was Syracuse University. I don't know how many people wouldn't know this, but my brother was actually recruited by Syracuse to play basketball. So like Jim Boeheim was in my kitchen, recruiting my brother. I've taken trips, up to Syracuse, and so I was familiar with the place. And so when it was my turn to then get recruited, it was just sort of like being in a place that was familiar with me. There was people on the football team that I played against in high school. I was familiar with campus. I was familiar with the people there. So I never really wanted to go up north. I always thought it was too cold, but it always felt like home from day one. And I have to attribute that to, my brother being recruited there.
Yeah.
And me being familiar with the university.
So having that unique experience for you, that Jim Boeheim's in your living room recruiting your brother, so that builds the connection for you, him going for basketball and you obviously playing football. How did Jim Boeheim accidentally recruit you to Syracuse in a way, I guess?
Well, when I think I came up for a visit or something, and somehow football got a wind of that, Demetrius actually has a younger brother, and you guys should check him out or something. I have no idea. All I know, I got my first letter, and then it would have been a violation if they were recruiting me back then. However, the letter was simply, it was great to meet you, and it mentioned my brother, so it was more of a cordial thing. So I don't know if he put a bug in their ear or whatever happened, but yeah, that was sort of my first letter I ever received, because I was shocked. I'm sitting there like, why are they writing me?
So your brother getting recruited, is that the first thing that kind of turned you on to Syracuse? Did you know anything about Syracuse's football team or any history before that?
I did. My brother was a huge Syracuse fan. My brother actually went on to play professional basketball in Europe for many years. He was actually more of a football fan than I was. So he watched Syracuse basketball, watched Syracuse football, so it was always just sort of there. So I did know the history, prior to coming up and committing to Syracuse.
Here with Jason Poles this morning on Wake Up Call, and very happy to have Jason here with us and talk about your history and then into what you've done for the university over the years here. So you play in the mid to late 90s, some glory days for Syracuse football, Paul Pasqualoni era. I grew up a Coach P kid. So can we please talk about Coach P? And I don't know if I get you in trouble by asking you this, but my second part of this was it a mistake to fire Coach P now that man's tried to retire about 72 times and he keeps getting called back into the game?
Well, you know what? It was a joy to play for him. It is funny, like me and my teammates, we joke around. I don't think we understood the lessons that he was trying to teach us out off the field until we got older. But obviously we had some great years there. And he had a very successful coaching career at Syracuse. And, we always look back and say, man, what a run. I think it was my junior year I had looked at a photo of that senior team. And I counted 31 players on that team actually received a paycheck from an NFL team. Not all got drafted, not all played full season, but at least just to get to that level tells you the type of talent that we were able to recruit back then. Very competitive in practice, very competitive all the time. And for us, that was the joy, that was the fun, to be able to always compete. And in terms of him, them letting him go, I think that was the decision. And, I wasn't here in it. So wasn't here as an employee, I wasn't here as a player. When different administration comes in and times change, I guess they feel as though, sometimes the people do too. So I staying clear of that, and that's well above my pay grade.
I can say it was wrong. So I can speak for you. I can speak for the world. So, but tell me something about Coach P. I mean, personally, between you and Coach P, is there anything about him that's just a special memory for you, or something that you take with you and keep in your backpack when you need it?
Once again, me and my teammates, we joke around and imitating the best we can. How you doing, buddy? Can I trust you? He used to always say that. Can I trust you? And, I think he and it was interesting. My senior year when I gave my speech, I just basically said, we talking about not being on the same page. I don't even think we were reading the same book. That was my quote. And I think a large part of that was me not getting the lessons. As I reflect on it, wasn't any. I think sometimes as we as people we get caught up in how a message is delivered, and not what the message is. And oftentimes I think that as young people, especially on that team, we may have taken the lessons, but as we as teammates talk now, we go, wow, it's a lot that he was trying to instill in us that goes beyond just our time as a player for him. So I think it was, at the time, he and I he'd walk by you in the hallway. How you doing, Jason? And before you could answer, he was gone.
Yeah.
But that was him. He was there to do a job. But, the lessons that he was trying to instill in us overall, he always just joke, if you're 5 minutes early, you're late. Huh? What? That makes sense. I'm early. You just said I was early.
Yeah.
But it's just about being prompt, being presentable. So, we always joked around his voice, that very distinct voice, we used to always make fun of it. I think Dave Rebar was the one who used to always do it the best.
Okay. Fair enough. That cover from Jason Poles this morning here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Speaking on Coach Pasqualoni, who spent a lot of time at Syracuse, and with Jason playing there in mid to late 90s. The defensive coordinator of that team, George DeLeon, you as a D-back, obviously, Coach DeLeon very well. And we had to, amidst everything these last couple of years, deal with the passing of Coach DeLeon. What can you tell us about your relationship with him, and what do you remember as we look back on his life?
He was they were all of our coaches super detailed. They just didn't recruit athletes. They wanted to recruit smart athletes who can make adjustments on the dime. And sometimes that's what made us better. We would literally come in at halftime sometimes and say, hey, look, remember we did week 2? Let's make that adjustment and let's go with that game plan. You had to sort of recall that. You had to remember it. They walk into a meeting like right before the game's about to start. Hey, remember we practiced all week? Scrap it. And so it was that level of expectation. And with DeLeon, he got the sense of being a people's coach. Yeah. Took time to, if you didn't understand something, somebody you could talk to. He was really a father figure for a lot of guys. and hence that's why he passed. There were so many people who was passionate about showing up, being there for his, his family and stuff like that. So he was, I mean, that was, he was a good guy. You loved to play for him, and you loved to bust your ass for him.
And I appreciate that. Appreciate the memory of Coach DeLeon. Who do you think of the coaching staff got ripped into, like when they kind of razz back and forth playfully? Who got Coach P the best? Is it Coach DeLeon or was it somebody else?
Probably DeLeon. I think they've known each other for like a long time. We didn't see that much of that, just simply because I think they were trying to set a tone for setting a game plan, setting the plan for the week. But I mean, at times you'd see a little bit of it, but to see Coach P smile and laugh, that was, you better remember that day in history.
So speaking of the history, since your time there, and Coach, after you finished up in Coach P for another few seasons, and then in 2001, let go, and then we have Greg Robinson in the football world, and then to Doug Marrone, then to Scott Schaefer, who was the DC under Marrone, and now to Dino Babers. As an alum of the college football program at Syracuse, how do you view, since you've left, and where would you say things are at now? As I know, obviously, you wear Syracuse on your chest proudly to this day.
Yeah. It's very, I mean, part of the history after I left is a little bit troubling, disturbing, sad, whatever adjective you want to use. But it's a sign of the times in terms of change. Mm-hmm. And what I always personally say, not just about Syracuse University, but any university, you have to really figure out where you fit in the university. Where are you? Who are you? Are you going to be a university that expects to compete for national championships every year, but yet you've never competed for national championships every year? Then you have to say, all right, I'm being unrealistic. You have to look at yourself and say, where do I belong? Where do I fit in? And where can I achieve? And, I think Syracuse, we really sit in a sweet spot where you can be very successful. And I think looking at the history is not to say a mistake, but the landscape's changed. So it becomes, do I use what they did before, which may be a mistake because the landscape changed, or do I come in and I try something new? And when you try something new, there's going to be successes, there's going to be failures, there's going to be bumps in the road. How patient are we as alumni, as fans, as attendees of games, and supporters of that process? Where is Syracuse trying to fit and find itself within the new landscape? New landscape started when I was there. When we were there, there was not just success in football, there was success in basketball, there was success in lacrosse. And since then, teams built out facilities, they've spent a lot of money on salaries of coaches, scholarships overall being reduced. Now you have smaller schools, taking some players that would have gone to Syracuse. Now you can't. So, and I think that advent in the use of the internet has really changed things, because a player like me, it's all word of mouth back in the late 90s, right? I mean, you probably had some really bad audio of the video of me playing somewhere. I have no idea. But to find a kid, all you got to do is sit in front of your computer. So a kid can, instead of being regionally recruited, I can wind up being recruited by Hawaii or Alabama, wherever you are, it doesn't matter. And that I think it changed the landscape of how you can be discovered, and how do we take that process and formulate it into, it's negative 30 degrees out. Talk about tough as nails, Coach P. Coach, it's snowing. It's like 3 feet of snow out there. It's like negative 40. Kyle Federley, get the sweats. Like, how do you get a kid recruit that come to Syracuse? But with the indoor facilities and things that we're doing, it will help. Now you're having to compete with high salaries on coaches' sides and of course the NIL with the kids. So, I think we're positioned right now to compete. And at what level? This year, obviously, I think, of course, we have to wait and see. But we're in a spot that I always say, I don't have expectations as a former player to compete for national championships every year.
Yeah.
That would be unrealistic. But what is realistic? I just want to see him compete, go to a bowl game every year, and sprinkle in a 9 to 10 every so often. And is that doable at a Syracuse? I believe so.
What makes you believe when you talk about, NIL and different things and being ripe and that this can happen and there can be consistently of going to bowl games? Why do you believe in that right now? What is it about Syracuse that can be sold, in your opinion?
I think it's the same thing that sold me, family. Syracuse is not a large institution. It's a very small institution, has a very strong name. One of the reasons why I did pick Syracuse is, aside from being comfortable and familiar with not only the people that were there in the location itself, I always looked at the alumni and how big are they? How supportive are they? And you always sort of got that sense of family with Syracuse. And through everything that you go through in life, family's always there. And Syracuse is in a place that, man, we could sell that. No, we're probably not going to give a kid the biggest NIL deal. But when you sign an NIL deal and you don't perform or things go south, your family's still going to be there. And because we're a small community, I think that's our strength. I think that's, other than being a great institution academically, to tell a kid that you're going to come to Syracuse and get an education and you have these alumni behind you that's willing to support you as long as you do your part.
Yeah.
That is, to me, is huge. A lot of these kids, may get an NIL deal. I have no idea. I do not track it. I just see it every once in a while when I say a few $1 million roll by. But that's the world we live in today. I think I know we can compete in that.
That coming here from Jason Poles here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, the Director of Advancement in the Southwest region for Syracuse University. We're going to talk about exactly what that is in a second. You mentioned your team, and you said 30 plus, I think you said 31, that had an NFL paycheck, at least at some point. Looking back simply on the 1998 roster, I look back because I grew up in this world, and the beauty of growing up in Syracuse, New York, being a Syracuse kid, and then watching the games, going to the games, having your favorite players, getting those cards, getting those books, getting the autographs, and then coming back as a broadcaster and saying Donovan McNabb, Madi Williams, Rob Conrad, Kyle McIntosh, Ian McIntosh, D. Brown, James Mungro, Nick Sedano, Kyle Johnson, and going down the line here, I don't want to miss anybody. I'm sure I might, though. Pat Woodcock, as well as Corey Bowen, and I would say Duke Pettijohn as well, and then Will Allen.
Dwight Freeney on that team.
Yeah, and then Moreland Greenwood. I mean, then the ones and now the names that I just named off are some of the greats that ever put on a Syracuse football jersey. They've also been on this show.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really incredible when I look back on it and I say, just this 1998 roster, I try to talk to every alum. There's nobody that's like not welcome. I tell everybody, you go to Syracuse, you're on your way into Syracuse, getting recruited by Syracuse. Let's do it. Let's talk. You commit. Let's talk. You sign. Let's talk. You're there. Let's talk. You become a janitor 25 years from now. Let's talk. And I feel so thankful to have all of you on the show. But looking at that 1998 roster, it's like the majority of that roster of those big names that have been here. And that to me, it's like, look at that. Like I would have talked to any of those guys in any era at any time, and they all were on the same team. Like I got to interview y'all over a span of history, but y'all got to be in a locker room together. Like that team to me is like a Syracuse dream team. And that had to be pretty special for you.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I don't recall all the names you listed there, but you remember you got Will Allen,
yeah,
you got Keith Bullock, Quentin Harris played in the NFL. I mean, there's just a laundry list of guys who, we were just hard workers having fun. We really just enjoy. You got to enjoy the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as much as you hated practice, some of us, whatever. But once again, for us, it always came back to competing. Like you said, Kevin Johnson. That guy would compete walking down the street. We just love to compete, which to us made the game so much easier.
And 3 straight, because you're a Big East kid, and so am I. So shout out to the Big East. Much love. Big East football doesn't exist anymore. So y'all could say you left as champions, but 3 consecutive Big East football titles from 1996 to 98. And before Syracuse finished up in the Big East, found a way to be a tri-champion, I believe. And so when you look back on, the Big East, and now Syracuse has spent a decade pretty much here in the ACC. I mean, it's a unique world because I have love for the ACC. I have love for the Big East. I'm a Big East kid. I'm still bitter and sad, but the ACC also has a bunch of amazing people working there. So how do you balance the two? Because I've seen the best of both worlds, and I'm gonna be selfish, Jason. I wish we had both.
I look at it 2 ways. I look at what is the ACC now, and I look at so many teams that were in the Big East.
Yeah.
No, of course it's not the same, but at the same time, you got to remember we're dealing with the business, and businesses evolve, businesses change, and that so it just sort of you're going to continue to see this shift. I think it was just an announcement with the Big 12 conference. There's a couple teams leaving, and they just announced like 4 of them coming in. You'll probably see it some more shift. So it's just evolution of business. So I don't, it's just like breaking a record. Guess what? You break a record, somebody has to come behind you and break the record again. So it's just part of the process. We had a great time competing in the Big East, and we have one hell of a time competing in the ACC too. So just look forward, man. Let's look forward and enjoy our glory days and smile and look forward to recapturing some of that glory, man.
Director of Advancement of the Southwest region for Syracuse University. You have all of Southern California, Arizona, and poor you have Las Vegas. So bring me into what it means to be the Director of Advancement in the Southwest region for Syracuse University. Where is your office? What is this like? I mean, bring me into the world of Jason Poles for the last 3 years.
Well, it was interesting. I wasn't really, I'm from the East Coast of New Jersey. So I was not looking to make this move, but the opportunity came up, and my family and I decided it was a good opportunity for me, for us really. And we moved here physically in January of 19. We're out and about, and then the pandemic hits. So we've yet to still really enjoy all things Southern California. But, I work out of my home now mostly, while I do have an office in Sherman Oaks that I do go to. And basically, it's getting our alumni, our parents, and supporters involved in finding a way to support the institution and our students, and our mission to give our students the best education and experience possible. So it's been a joy to really, for me, I'm like a kid in a candy store. I grew up loving to explore, be at different places, see different things. And, so I really get a chance to do that without having to start the car for 30 minutes or put on a heavy coat.
And I wouldn't be starting the car in California right now with that gas. So I mean, staying away. I was going to ask you, can you scooter to work or?
No, I do have a scooter, but it would be dangerous to scooter to work because the highways, while they full and they go slow, but some of the drivers are a little scary out there.
Central New York has been known to have some interesting drivers. How would you compare Southern California to Central New York?
It's funny when I drive. Sometimes I want to do a tutorial for these people out here
Yeah.
because now number one, going back, being from an East Coast, Southern New Jersey, I moved from Cherry Hill to Syracuse. When we moved to Syracuse, we lived out in Fayetteville, and I remember people saying, "Oh man, you live out in Fayetteville? Man, that's far. It's like you're gonna run into traffic." Like I used to live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. That's traffic. Like, what are you talking about? And then you move from Syracuse to out to Southern California.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like basic. Yeah, if you're in the left lane, no trucks, don't drive 65 miles an hour. Like if you're driving 65, get in the middle lane and get to your right. These people out here, it's like they own the road, and I could be in a pickup hauling 18 refrigerators in the back going about 20. And I'm in the left lane just cruising.
There's something I saw in Central New York, maybe this, and based on what you said, maybe make you feel better. I was driving behind a car that had the sticker, "If I pass you on the right, you're an idiot."
I need that bumper sticker.
So Jason, bring me in, like you said, you're trying to get more alumni involved, more connection, whatnot. What is the day-to-day, and what are the projects that are supposed to be most fruitful for Syracuse University through what you do on the West Coast?
Basically, it's reaching out. For me, it's just reaching out to our alum and our parents to see, between time, talent, and treasure, how do they want to deal with their philanthropy with the university? That's raising money. And obviously in athletics, we have the Lally complex. We have a huge lift there to try to revamp what was surprising to me when I returned in 2012 to see some of the same walls, bleachers, chairs, and everything else. So, that's huge in the athletic front. And academically, a lot of it's scholarship endowments that we're trying to raise money. The cost of tuition at any university really skyrocketed. We want the best students, period. Best and brightest. Yeah. And sometimes those best and brightest students need financial assistance in order to actually attend to Syracuse University. So when people give back their dollars, it's encouraged to go where they would like it to go. But for us, raising scholarship money and endowments is key to helping those students.
And so for you, with having that and working on enrollment and working on alumni relations, working on bringing money in and whatnot, do you have a team? Are you tasked with this region on your own? How does that look?
We're all one. That's one thing. Like I said, I've always liked Syracuse. We always treat each other like family. Although, we have an office out here in Sherman Oaks. That's where my office is located. That's where we do teach class. In terms of a person in this region, I am the only person, but I work with my campus partners who also do come out. We have a team of research folks who help us out on the West Coast. So while I'm physically by myself, I am not performing the job by myself. And, that's a good thing. We get to partner with some really great folks on campus to try to cultivate those relationships. I just had a meeting last week with the Dean of Newhouse and an alum who works at Google. Trying to cultivate his relationship to figure out how can we get him engaged, involved, and support our students. So, it's really fun to really work with so many different people, so many different personalities, and really putting together the puzzle all for students, to have the best education and experience. And I look at my role is unique and different. Prior to me coming back to university, I just assumed that my athletic scholarship was paid for by Dome Dogs and ticket sales. Then I actually got to meet some of the people who actually donated money for me to have a scholarship to go to Syracuse University. So I take that personal. I carry my role with a lot of pride because it's not just for the next Jason Poles that we're trying to support, because I want our students to be obviously better than me, but a lot of our students do great things and they just need the opportunity. So what can our alumni and our parents provide to give those kids those opportunities?
So what gets you excited day to day? What gets you excited today? You wake up in the morning, you get a cup of coffee, you're ready to go. Like, what is it about the day that really gets you amped up and ready?
I've always enjoyed hearing people's stories. Who is the next person that I can connect with, that I can learn from their story, and then take that story and say, hey, this is how you can help us out. And walking an alumni, donor, prospect from that process of introduction to actually execution. So I think it's the process and the amount of people I get to touch, along the way. And it's the deans on campus, it's our assistant deans on campus, it's our back office, and then it's the amazing people that I meet out here on the West Coast, who I'll ask them, like, how did you get out here on the West Coast? A lot of them like, well, I got tired of the snow, so I had a buddy of mine, he had an uncle, we slept on a sofa for a month, and now, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I just enjoy the interaction, meeting with folks who have a passion for the university. And a lot of times that passion has been pulled out or discovered yet. But once we find it, it's great. And they really see the impact of what they can do for another student.
Does Syracuse University facilitate kind of getting you the information of where to go and here are the names and here are the contacts, or do you have to just kind of dig roots on your own and figure that out, and where are these people and what's going on? I mean, how much of this is research on your part to know this is where we're going to attack, this is where we're going to try and get new students from, and then these are the people that I want to talk to? How much is that Syracuse University aiding in that respect, and how much of it is on you?
Well, I mostly just deal with the alumni and parents and our supporters. In terms of the research side of it, we do have a whole research team out there in Syracuse, and I do some of them on my own. I had to learn a whole new region and what it means to be in this region. And what do I mean by that? I called a buddy of mine, Brian Durant, when I first got out here in 2019, and I said, hey, I'm coming out to Vegas. And I think it was like June or late May.
Yeah.
He goes, what are you doing that for? I said, well, somebody agreed to a meeting, so I'm coming. He goes, well, anyone who's still here in Vegas during this time, they don't have any money, because the people would they leave. It's too hot. So, just learning, that people in Arizona, in the summertime, they go to San Diego. You people in San Diego get out of San Diego because too many people are coming in. So it's learning how to navigate the region. But I have a whole team. We have a whole team supporting us in terms of research, who the people are. Word of mouth is great. When I meet with alumni, I ask them all, who do you still speak with at Syracuse University? You still speak with classmates? And 9 times out of 10, people do. And they're willing to have that conversation with me.
That coming from Jason Paul is here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortoro, where sports meets life, inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, Director of Advancement in the Southwest region for Syracuse University. You kind of answered this, but we were talking about the why is what I always like to know. Like you said, you like to know people's stories, and you talked about family with Syracuse, but you've been so connected to the university, right? You go there, you play there, you come back there, you work there, and we're used to seeing you around campus. Now you're on the West Coast, continuing to push this for Syracuse. Why continue to do this? I mean, you could have just said, hey, I'm a proud alum, I love my time there, I'll give when I can, but this is your job, this is what you do every day. Why that for you?
It's something I never imagined I'd be doing. But when I was actually at Target, when I was in the banking business, I had a nice title, just bought a house, 3 kids, the whole 9. And I told them this is not the right time for me. And then when I got the opportunity, Chris Gedney reached out and said, hey, I got something, I'm interested in you. Would you be interested in this? And like, what is it? And he goes, well, remember what I did for you? Just sort of getting me re-engaged and bringing things to my attention. And once I started, I was like, wow, this is, my kids, first of all, they were like, Dad, you wear something orange like every day. And my wife's like, you love the university. Why would you not take this? And, so it was just one of those things where you never know. And, I kept the door open and there was the opportunity. And then when the opportunity came up in 2019, the thing, I enjoy it. I enjoy working for my alma mater. I enjoy, dealing with the people and going through that process. So it was just, obviously just a difference in terms of location, region, and how you go about doing your job on a daily basis. But I think that's it. It's just, I just think learning the stories, helping our students out is that what brings me the joy.
Did Syracuse up your pay or offer you an NIL since you're in California?
Yeah, they gave me all the context where I can get a great NIL deal. So they said, yeah, we know it's expensive out there. Go figure it out. No, I mean, it's it was one of the things we had to talk about, because obviously the salary in Syracuse is going to be different from LA, just because of cost of living.
That coming from Jason Poles here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Jason, you've been great about answering my questions. There's a thing called rapid fire that we round out our Wake Up Call conversations with. We've done it for many years, and it allows for me to put you on the hot seat and talk about literally anything. But there's a caveat to this, and I don't know any other broadcaster, and you probably don't know either, I would imagine. Anybody in the media world, they like to ask questions. I'm not your typical media person. Hopefully you got that today. I let you put me on the hot seat, which I know, in fact, many a media person would run away from the microphone, but I have to answer whatever questions you ask. This is not predetermined. So I get to ask you, you get to ask me. I'm going to defer to you first, and we're going to have a trio apiece. So what do you got for me?
Why do you do what you do, since you asked me that question?
Well, yeah, I think it's very uniquely incredible how God makes my world, constantly reminds me where I'm going and why I'm going. And you just said, I do my job because I love to hear people's stories. I love to get to know people. And I do my job because I love to tell people stories, and I love to get to know people. And my world has gotten so small, and it's been so incredible to go around this country, outside of this country, and to speak with people about who they are, about why they are, what they do, their families. It's not about statistics to me. Yes, we'll give people, if you get an accolade, you get an award, you have great statistics, we'll talk about it. But it's about you. It's about your kids. It's about, your mom, your dad, your guardian. It's about, why did you do this? You had a fork in the road. You chose which way? Strong faith. Why do you have it? What do you lean on when you're having a really tough day? And my hope every single day is, I tell people I use sports as a vehicle, and inside of that vehicle, I put humility, comedy, community, civility, freedom, equality, all of these things, honesty, that matter to me. I use sports as an excuse to try and get you to let me in the door, so I can, God forbid, make your day better, more positive. I'm the media. I say I'm a 0.1% in the media. 0.1% of the media tells you the truth, cares about you, and really holds dear that faith in God that we have an obligation. And I would have done what I did no matter what. I would do what I'm doing right now, no matter what, by the grace of God. But I know now something I didn't know as a kid when I wanted to do this. And there's a lot of things that I want to do, but this is part of it. I didn't know how many wolves were here. And I tell people right now, if I left the media right now, I'm leaving the sheep to the wolves. And right now I will not do that. And when I'm 97 years old, I will not leave the world to the wolves. So, I'm here to tell stories. I'm here to talk about God, because that's important to me. I accept everybody from every background, culture, ethnicity, religion, doesn't matter to me. And at the end of the day, if you want people to know equality, know a lack of prejudice, a lack of sexism, a lack of racism, if you want people to know the world that God made, you have to give it to them. And so that's what I try to do every day, is give them what I say I am, and hope that some other people will help out and we'll get this thing right.
Love it.
My first one for you, I'm going to go to food. So you grew up in Jersey. I've been in North Jersey, middle part of Jersey, and South Jersey. And I mean this with all due respect. I dated girls from every part of Jersey and it all ended badly. So what, if you took a girl out on a date right now, I take the wife out on a date right now, where do you go in Syracuse and where do you go in Jersey?
Oh, Syracuse, I'll answer first because that is more recent. And we used to go to Aaron Evans all the time. Which is good atmosphere. It's always sit at the bar and sit in the bar area.
Yeah.
And have something to eat or drink or whatever else. I'm trying to think. We went to a couple of places in Airedale. We're literally right down the street for us, so we used to always just go there. And if I were in Jersey, where would we go? It was funny. I just thought about this place the other day. It was a favorite brunch spot in Marlton called Redstone.
Okay.
And they had was it endless mimosas? You had like an all-you-can-eat thing, and they had like freshly, everything was just fresh. It was just great. So not every Sunday, but on Sundays, that's where we would go.
There's a place in Jersey that's like an hour out from MetLife, and I forget what it was, but it was a huge brunch spot. And in the middle of it, they had these trees that almost looked like you were outside, but you're inside. And they had all this foliage in the middle. And the buffet was just like 4 massive. I mean, you like ate at the buffet and couldn't get to everything.
Right.
And I do remember that Jersey had really good food. I just will never marry a Jersey girl.
Gotta find the right one.
What'd you say?
Gotta find the right one.
Maybe you know better than I know, man. I just I'm sure there's amazing Jersey girls out there. I just met y'all as friends, and it didn't work out. What's your second one for me?
Second one. What's give me an all-time classic movie of yours. What's a favorite movie?
Oh yeah, let me go all-time classic. See, I go all over the place with movies. I'm a movie guy, so I also work on screenwriting, and I will, because I put it into the world, I will work on a movie someday. I've been an extra in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I'm actually in the chase scene. I made it. So that's there. I've worked on some screenwriting, and which I love. I love that. I love telling the story. I want to be in the story, but I want to tell it too.
Right.
Directing, screenwriting, and acting, all of that is in my wheelhouse world. And so I would say, to go back in the day, man, I like all kinds of stuff, but I think the ones that I could take people aside for and be like, maybe throw them off when I talk about it, because they know I love comedy, I love Marvel, I love jumping into those worlds. But I'm a big fan of Humphrey Bogart. And
really?
So I like Humphrey Bogart. I like the Maltese Falcon, but I am a bigger fan of a movie that I saw in Film and Society class at Marywood University. Shout out to Marywood and my teacher, Dr. Mirabito. We watched On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando. And that is a movie that I feel like people haven't seen. So yes, I would say On the Waterfront in the Maltese Falcon. My G-Mama, my grandma loved Cary Grant. So there's some good Cary Grant movies, but yeah, I mean, I like going back, and Casablanca, like there's just movies that you just appreciate.
Yeah.
And I would also say like Jurassic Park is, I think I was 7 when the first one came. So it's been like almost 30 years, I think. Yeah. And that first Jurassic Park, Steven Spielberg, those graphics still hold up, and it's still scary. Like it looks real. So I'd probably say Jurassic Park holds its own, because if you go back and watch the original Alien and they're getting chased down the thing,
right?
The alien gets like pushed down on a gurney, and you just see it doing like this, and you can hear the wheels if you listen. It's like, so some of it doesn't hold up, but Jurassic Park does for whatever reason. So shout out to Jurassic Park.
It's a good one.
I'm going to stick with movies here. You're trapped in a theater. You have 3 movies that you have to watch for a month, and you are stuck in that theater. There is no way out. What 3 movies do you watch?
Oh man. I probably already watched them like a million times already. I would probably go with Purple Rain. I've watched that a million times. Love that movie.
Okay.
Then you have to throw in Pulp Fiction. And really, I know every line in Pulp Fiction. And anytime it comes on, my wife goes, "Why are you watching this again?" I'm like, you have to watch Pulp Fiction. And that was a movie in college that, we just all watched all the time. And, oh man, a movie that, I'd have to go with Harlem Nights.
Okay.
Harlem Nights was all-time classic. You just sit, just the cast of people in Harlem Nights, between Eddie Murphy, Red Fox, the cast is unbelievable and it's hilarious. It's a great movie.
Yeah, if you look at this, like you said, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Arsenio Hall, Jasmine Guy, who was on, was it called A Different World?
Yeah,
the one that had my man with the
Dwayne
Wayne.
Yeah,
that had the double. I always wanted those glasses. So wow, I love
that movie was just an all-time classic with a great cast of characters and comedians. And Rob, it was just funny. That's a movie I literally could watch like every single day and just laugh like I've never seen it before.
Well, I think like Red Fox too is like you don't realize, like I didn't realize how he was like a part of my childhood. Like you kind of just cross paths with Red Fox and then you're just like, oh, because somebody had said it and I'm like, I don't know if I know that comedian. And then you see his face and you're like, oh yeah, I know that comedian. So like, and also I'll say this to you. I wish I had the book here in the studio right now, but it's outside of here. I'll say go grab it. But Charlie Murphy, I think of Eddie Murphy and Charlie Murphy. No offense to Eddie. I think Charlie is the funnier brother. May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
I got to meet, so he was on Chappelle's show next to Dave Chappelle, my favorite person on that show. Fantastic guy. And I wrote to him and I don't get starstruck. I messaged him publicly on Twitter and I tagged him and I was going to his show in Syracuse at Destiny USA. And I sent him a message and I was like, I had Funny Bone. He was going to be there in a couple of days. And I said, Charlie Murphy, like at Charlie Murphy, whatever it was. I said, you're coming to my hometown. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. And he wrote, that's what's up. See you there. And I got tears. And I sat in the front row. I could touch the stage. He bumped my fist at the end. We left, went outside. I got his book, got the autograph, got to take a picture with him and actually got to like talk to him and just tell him like how much I appreciate him. And he was such a nice guy.
Yeah.
So shout out to Charlie Murphy in heaven, making God fall over for some inappropriate posts. What's your last one for me?
All right. Last one. All right. I'm going to go sports here.
Okay.
2 minutes left, fourth quarter. Let's just say you're down by 8. Which quarterback? Who are you taking?
At Syracuse?
You can go Syracuse, and then you can go NFL.
Okay. So I'm down by how much at the end?
Down by 8, 2 minutes left. We got 2-minute drill coming up. Got to score the 2-point conversion.
Down by 8, 2 minutes left. D McNabb. So I never have to think about that. So shout out to all the guys though. Shout out to McPherson. Shout out to Phil Cox, I should say. Shout out to Todd Phil Cox, Don McPherson. Shout out to Marvin Graves. A lot of great guys. I would choose D McNabb because he's my favorite growing up as a kid. My mom's favorite too. And we got to meet him. Really awesome story about D McNabb. He was working at Tully's as the host on Erie Boulevard. And this was like before he got big in football. This was like him being a backup, and he was playing basketball. And we were sitting all the way in the back. And I was there with my mom and my dad, and we saw him. I go, Ma, I think that's Donovan McNabb. My mom's like, really? I don't know. And then she goes, maybe. And then she looked again and she goes, Daniel, I think that is Donovan McNabb. My dad's like, you both are crazy. Donovan McNabb's not here. He wouldn't work here. It's not doing that. Come on now. Like, no. And so we went out to the front, and he was there at the host stand. And my mom went up to him and she's like, I'm going to ask him. I was like, Ma, no, like, don't embarrass him. And she's like, no, I'm going to ask him. So my mom's 4'11" on a good day. My mom, a little tiny mom. And she said, excuse me. And he bent down and she was like, are you Donovan McNabb? And he looks at her and he goes like this, and he goes like that. And apparently like nobody at Tully's like knew what he was doing with his life.
A sports bar in Syracuse didn't know who he was.
It was so weird. It was like, he just was like it was like undercover boss. I don't know what was going on. And so she was like, my son would really love to have your autograph. I think he said, like, is this your son? And then I still have it. And so he signed a Tully's coaster. You know what? Let me grab it because I need to fit what I'm saying. Hold on 1 second, because I got to show it to you. So I got this right off of camera here, and I have it to this day. And this is one of my most prized possessions in my life. One of my absolute most prized possessions is I have the Tully's coaster that Donovan McNabb signed. And I remember being a little sad. I was like, oh man, he signed it. This is so great. But I wanted him to sign a number 25 because I grew up playing basketball. And I'll never forget what Donovan McNabb said to me. We talk about learning people's stories. My dad had walked outside because he thought we were both crazy. And my mom and I were standing there, and Donovan goes like this. And he bends down, and I'm little. So he's talking to my mom and I, and he whispers to us. He says, I know I'm not anybody right now, but just watch. I might be somebody someday. And I never forgot that. And we were down in Disney on vacation in April, and the draft was on, and I was glued to the television, and I will never forget. I was like, Mom, she goes, what are you doing? We're going to the pool. I was like, I got to make sure. I was like, I got to watch until Donovan gets drafted. She goes, well, you better hope he gets drafted quick. And he got drafted second behind.
Kind of quick.
And I remember they booed, and they're like, and they were wearing Ricky Williams jerseys. I was not Ricky. And so I'll never forget that about Donovan. And a few years ago, thanks to Syracuse University, when he came back, I actually got to talk to him.
Oh, cool.
Professional. And so that's very cool to me. So D McNabb. And then in the NFL right now, I kind of want to throw up saying this, but Tom Brady. So, but whatever, Tom, do you? But I would want to say Aaron Rodgers, but he's such a diva now. Like, he kind of broke my heart. He's such a drama queen. So I don't know. I mean, you know what? I'm going to go one of my guys, and actually a pretty good friend of mine, and crazy how you meet people and cross paths, but Joe Theismann. I'm going to pick Theis. I'm going to pick him. So he's just a really awesome guy that you root for. So I'm going to pick Joe Theismann. And right now, Tom Brady, I want to talk. Let's move on. So my final question for you, I'm going to stick with sports.
Yeah.
You played DB. So we're going to go like this. If it was the end of the game and you could have anybody next to you in the secondary, who do you pick to be next to you in any game, any weather, any time? And what quarterback would you love to pick off on the final play of the game?
And you're saying college?
I'm saying college and pro. Same thing that you did.
Gotcha. Well, as a teammate, and playing one safety, and if there's another safety I need next to my side, I'd have to really go with my teammate Donovan Darius.
Okay.
Just a smart guy, in terms of playing the game, getting everybody lined up, the intensity. Going back to Coach P, can I trust you? You can trust what he's going to tell you, and you can trust what he's going to do, right?
Yeah.
Any quarterback to be picked off. I played against Tom Brady, and I didn't get a pick. I got a sack, but I didn't get a pick. So I'd have to, I'd have to go there. in the pros to pick somebody off, you know, I was always a John Elway fan. And honestly, that's why I wore number 7. I was quarterback in high school. And that's why I wore number 7, you know, just to keep it going. But I was really a quiet Dan Marino fan.
Me too.
I would love to get a jump on that arm. His release was so quick. So as a safety, if you can catch a read on that and grab his pass, that would be, you know, that's you take that home and, you know, Forrest Gump, you just don't stop running. Take that to the house.
Do you have a safety in the NFL that has ever played that you would love to play with?
Well, it's interesting enough. My favorite safety growing up and watching play, I actually had a chance to play with Steve Atwater.
Okay.
You know, I just you know, we were both the same size. You know, 6'3", I think he was like 235, 240, so was I. He hit way harder than I did, but to meet him in person, super nice guy, super smart, and the guy was like chiseled out of a rock, you know, not an ounce of fat. And just to watch how he played the game, how he prepared for the game was, you know, was just, you know, just amazing. It's either him or Ronnie Lott. You know, I don't think you would ever go wrong with Ronnie Lott. You know, he was just a totally different beast out there in the field. So one of those two, I think, would say. I mean, imagine me and Steve Atwater, both 6'4", you know, covering the back. I don't think there's anybody who's going to complete a pass.
No, and that would be awesome. And I love that. And I love the picture that you painted there, and just awesome to have that here with us as we round things out. Jason Poles here with us, Syracuse alum as a student as well as an athlete, and your current director of advancement in the Southwest region for Southern California, Arizona, and Las Vegas for Syracuse University. Jason, it's the first time you've been on the show inside of the Cafe Kubal studios here on Wake Up Call, but I look forward to 2 things. Number 1, having you back. Number 2, actually getting to sit with each other in the same room would mean a lot to me. And maybe you could teach me how to tie a bow tie so we can do that together. But you're going to have to meet me halfway, or we're going to have to go to Vegas, or we have to come back over here, because I am not paying those gas prices. I'm not going to do that.
Totally understandable. I look forward to it too.